Welcome, everyone, to today's special live stream in celebration of World Food Day. We're here to join millions of people worldwide in raising awareness about food security, hunger, and the right to a better, more sustainable food system. Thanks for joining us. Let me give you a little background first. World Food Day was created by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization in 1979. And this year, the theme is particularly meaningful: right to foods for a better life and a better future. I'm your host, Dr. Daphne Bascom, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Coach Gergo, who's passionate about helping people live healthier plant-based lifestyles. And we're going to be talking about how we can all support this mission.
Thank you, Daphne. Happy to be here.
I am excited for this conversation, Gergo. But before we kick off, I want to bring this conversation and the importance of World Food Day a little closer to home. So in 2023, food insecurity in the United States affected approximately 47 million people. And that's a rise from previous years, partly due to inflation and partly due to some reductions in the post-pandemic relief measures. This number represents about 14% of households that struggle with food insecurity. And by food insecurity, I mean they did not have consistent access to enough food for an active and healthy lifestyle. Now, certain groups are disproportionately affected. For example, 23% of Black households and about 22% of Hispanic households have faced food insecurity, and the number continues to rise. One last fact that I want to share is that about 17.9% of households with children experience food insecurity, with 1 in 10 children in the United States living in food insecure households. Before we dive into this conversation, I want to remind you that we want to hear from you. This is an important topic, which is why Gergo and I wanted to do this special live stream, but we'd love to hear your questions or comments in the chat, and we'll do our best to get to them during the live stream. So, Gergo, I know there's a lot of different ways that people can celebrate World Food Day, and one of them is by turning to their local farmers or other means of sourcing food locally. Why is it important to source food locally? And can you share a little bit about how individuals can contribute to food sustainability by making this choice?
Yeah, sure thing. So why would it be important to support farmers? So if you think about by just purchasing directly from a local farmer or consumers, or you can help to keep money circulating in your communities or their communities. So it strengthens your local economy, but it's also reducing your environmental impact.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, if the local food doesn't have to travel that far, right? So this means it's just less consumption of fuel, lower carbon emission, plus the locally grown produce is often fresher than more nutrient dense, and then more nutrient dense due to the shorter transport times. And it's also, some studies suggest that it's more, the biodiversity is higher in the small scale farmers because they're more likely to cultivate a variety of crops. So there would be just a couple of reasons why you want to support local farmers. And the way you can do this is obviously, it's clear, just show up on your farmers market. Yeah. So for example, where I live here in Madeira is a lot of, we have a lot of small farmers here. Basically, a lot of old Madeirans are still farming here. Like they usually have their own little farmland. So everyone is have their own produce, and they take it to the farmers market on every Sunday, and then you can go and buy and exchange. So someone is growing cucumber, the one's going peppers, tomatoes, and then you can exchange and you can buy this, buy that. And so you can buy like your local fruits, your vegetables, and the revenues grow straight to the farmers. So it
Right.
keeps the community going. Um, you can also choose locally sourced option in stores. So many grocery stores, even like
Mhm.
big chains here, they support local farmers. So you can find locally produced products. They usually have a label on it that is locally produced. So you can support that. So reducing the carbon emission. You can also think about this will reduce how to reduce your food waste. There's a cool app we used to use in the UK. We don't have it here, but I think you have it in America. It's called Too Good to Go. I don't know if you heard about it. So basically, it's like whatever the restaurant have a surplus, you can see it in the app, and you can pick up well discounted price sometimes for free, so it doesn't end up in a landfill.
And Gergud, I'm glad you mentioned that you are not living in the United States. So in Madeira, do you know if there are issues related to food security or food insecurity for people in the community?
Not as bad as, for example, in the UK, which is weird because it would be more like a developed uh, country, or if you think about London, it's like one of the worst top cities. The food poverty is higher than here because it's a smaller island. Everyone is supporting the others. If you think about the green, the blue zones,
Hmm.
kind of like that. So still a lot of small villages supporting each other. So I think less than like big cities, because we have enough food for everyone, but I think the distribution is make it harder to have everyone. But obviously we have like drawbacks, and it's an island, so we still
Right.
um, rely on import.
Hmm.
But it's a very fertile island, so everything grows here, so it makes it a little bit easier to get a variety of food and nutrients, because people think that um, just by having a lot of food, it doesn't mean you are not malnutrition, right? So while like all the developed countries, America, UK, Europe, we have a lot of food, but it doesn't mean that that it has all the nutrients, so variety of
Hmm.
uh, vitamins, minerals. So that's why we can see, even like we can see overweight people, overweight children, but they still can be malnutrition. It doesn't mean just having calories is enough. We need to have variety of food, which Madeira are doing really well. It's very fertile. Like anything you throw out here, will grow. So I think it's less a problem than in the UK, for example, where I lived for like plus 10 plus years.
Got it. So, just a quick recap, there's a lot of economic benefits to local farmers. You can reduce your carbon footprint. And more importantly, you get the freshness and the health aspect of purchasing your food locally. It's high. Um, the farmers markets, I mean, it sounds like you can go to your farmers market pretty easily. I would encourage our listeners to do that. And the other option, and I don't know if you have something similar in Madeira, are community supported agriculture programs.
Yep. Yeah, we have a similar one. It's not called like this, but yeah, it's pretty similar, which is like just allows everyone to receive fresh produce regularly while
Hmm.
directly you supporting your local farms. So we have something similar here, but yeah, it's not called like that. But I think in America it's called CSA. Is this right?
CSA, yeah.
Yeah.
And one other thing to think about is for those of you that are able to eat out regularly, you might want to prioritize restaurants or, as Gergu said, grocers that source their ingredients locally. So these are all different ways that you can support local agriculture, support local farmers, and add to your nutrition because you're definitely going to benefit. And I even want to think about um, how eating locally may also positively impact your microbiome. Probably a whole nother conversation, but Definitely support your local farmers.
Yep.
So, Gergu, I have a feeling Europe may be a little different, and correct me if I'm wrong, but food packaging is another big sustainability challenge. Do you have any thoughts on how we as consumers can make better choices around food packaging and even food storage, especially for buying plant-based products?
Yeah, let's. Um, yes. So I'll just give my example first, and then I'll give
Uh-huh.
you some other tips. So when we go to shop, and we always take our own bags, and we have like this little cotton bags, and then we pick the fruits and vegetables and we put it in a bag, and then we measure it that way. Rather than you can still see like some of the shops, they is either free or have to pay for it, but they all have plastic bags, so they can throw that in and they measure that way. And it's still really present here, even if this is like an they have like an older population here, so they used to not have plastic bags, but now it's easily accessible in the shop. So they just use that, and I guess they just throw it away. But we always prepare. We take our little bags, and then we select the produce, put it in the bag, measure it that way, and then buy that. So that's one. A lot of times I understand you cannot do this, especially in big cities. So for example, buying tofu, yogurts, plant-based milk, right? They will come in packages,
Mhm.
which is gonna be usually plastic, or Tetrapack is even harder to
Yes.
recycle. Um, so at some point, we are trying to make our own yogurt, our own tofu, and plant-based milk, but it's just so time consuming and usually just get more expensive than buying the products. It's I understand that a lot of times in this modern world is just not sustainable. So what I would encourage is just reduce your packaging as much as possible. For
Mhm.
example, take your bags with you and things like that.
Mhm.
Try to uh, buy things in bulk,
Right.
and obviously meal prepping. It's a very good idea of reducing waste. Freeze your food, your leftovers, um, so we can get into a little bit meal prep if you want to. But yeah, that would be the idea of just reducing the plastic and the waste. And in terms of how a plant-based diet can contribute sustainability, we can talk about that if you want to. But if you want to stay on this topic, we can also. I don't know if that's what you or answer your question or not.
No, you did. You did. And thank you. And if I could ask you a couple other questions just to tie onto that. And I agree with you. The the modern conveniences have made us more likely to purchase things than necessarily to make them on our own. And I do want to talk about meal prep and how that can actually contribute to a sustainability conversation. But when you're shopping or when you're looking for brands to support, do you intentionally prioritize brands that may have compostable packaging or brands that definitely have a focus on being environmentally friendly or creating or trying to minimize the packaging? I mean, when I see things in the store and there's like 3 layers of packaging, you just think about the waste that's already there. Is this something that you prioritize or you would recommend people to be more aware of when they're making intentional choices while they're shopping?
Yes, definitely. Always like in the UK, yeah, there was places called like co-ops, which
Huh.
was a little bit more friendly, like consumer friendly, like if you want, or environmental friendly, if you wanted to have buy in box, or so as no packaging at all, or you can take your own bags, your own containers, you can
Right.
fill up. So sometimes you can take your home jar and then fill up with beans, lentils, and then take it home, so you don't have to use any packaging. And then they usually have like brands which is like usually smaller brands
Hmm.
who do like paper packaging or something like using less plastic.
Right.
Um, that would be the ideal for sure. And then like it's still a transition for us, but we try to move towards a little bit more zero waste. It's
Hmm.
very hard, as I said, in modern days, but if you can compost your own food, it would be
Right.
another great way to do that, or do a little bit more sustainable. And yes, as less packaging as possible to to not to reduce the landfill waste. That would be an idea, but I guess it's a different topic. But yeah,
No, they're definitely tied together.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And how does bulk purchasing and meal prep contribute to the conversation around sustainability, reducing waste?
So if you so we here as coaches, we always advocate for meal prepping, because you will know what you will eat calorie wise, but it's also really good for to to shop a little bit wisely, because if you have a list so you know what you will cook, then it would reduce overbuying. So you're not gonna like overbuy stuff you don't need. You're like, you
Right.
have the list, that's what I'm gonna eat this week, that's what I'm gonna prepare in bulk so I can buy a bigger package rather than uh, more smaller ones. So I can buy the big one. I can take my container, I cook it, and this way I know like, okay, this much I will need, and then I will use that. So when I meal prep, um, it's not just good for staying in calories and reach my performance goals, but it also prevent like overbuying. Um, and you will use them before it spoils, so you have to throw them away. You can always use leftovers, right?
Hmm.
So similar to meal prepping, you can always just put the leftovers to freeze them or mix them up into a new meal. So it also reduces waste and helps stretch the food budget, if you will.
Yeah, those are awesome tips. So just to recap, um, definitely choosing minimal or eco-friendly packaging when you can. And I know you mentioned composting, which people may feel like it's work sometimes. Do you do a lot of composting in Madeira?
We do. We are experimenting with it. It's the more you get into the rabbit hole, the harder it gets. Because I used to think like, oh, you just throw everything you want in the same place and that it'll be fine.
No, no.
But yeah, like banana peels cannot mix with this and that. So yeah, will need to educate yourself on composting, but it will makes like uh life a little bit easier, and like your obviously you don't have to just throw the food out, but if we will also fertilize your home garden. So we have a little garden here we try to grow, so it works out really well. And as I said, everyone is like a farmer here, so both of our neighbors on both sides, they have like a huge farmland, so
Oh,
they're
that's
teaching us a
nice.
lot of things. And
Yeah.
they also have, they're like, okay, like you have to compost here, you have to throw this here, this food mixed with this is good for that and that. So they helps a lot if you have education and someone helping you like how to do it. But it's just with everything else, it's like it gets a little hard to overwhelm at the beginning, but once you get into it, try it out, um, it will get much easier, and will kind of develop your own technique and your own um, whatever you need for your little garden, or how you're going to work out for you.
And that is something we didn't mention earlier, which is it's very easy. I mean, if you have space where you can grow your own vegetables, even small windowsill planters where you can start to grow your own herbs. I love some of the hydroponic solutions that are now available where you can grow a whole variety of vegetables. And even a small apartment like I live in, that these are feasible options to not only have local foods, but grow it myself and then be able to harvest and have fresh herbs and fresh vegetables whenever I need them.
Yeah, there's a new wave of like urban farming. You can see like this tiny farms on top of the buildings and little backyard courtyards. So it is definitely possible, but yeah, I have to put the work in even in apartment buildings.
And Gergu, one thing that we also want to be able to think about is how can, when you mentioned food prep and you mentioned bulk purchasing, do you have any tips that you give your clients on how to be creative in doing this? So that I know I frequently, I can be guilty of maybe not having my list and having things in the back of the refrigerator or freezer that are past their best looking date. But how can we get creative with making sure, one, that we're using produce before it starts to go a little moldy or green, but two, how can we incorporate um, community resources or other things into what we're doing on our own in order to optimize both the nutrients we're getting and our health?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's always everyone in circumstances is gonna be a little different. I'll tell you a little quick story what we have here. So as I said, like we have a lot of farmers and neighbors here, and then they produce a lot of things, and then they always have like seasons here. People forget that fruits and vegetables they grow in seasons, and now like we just get everything all year round, but it doesn't work that way in farms. So whatever they grow here, and it's like an over produced, then they just give it to the neighbors. So they like kind
Mm-hmm.
of like keep it. So and even it's like just a good gesture here. So if you want to give something to your neighbor, it was gonna be something like a food. So we get a lot of pumpkin this season, a lot of bananas, etc. So for example, we went to shop, we went to like bought everything for a week.
Uh-huh.
Fridge is full, and then the one of the neighbors just showed up with like 2 3 pumpkins, and then the other neighbor showed up with like 3 kilos of bananas,
Oh,
which is
wow.
like yeah, like 6 7 pounds of bananas. And they well that already like started to get brown. So like, okay, what are we gonna do? So we just chopped up all the pumpkin, go into the freezer. Half of the banana we made protein balls with oats. It can go in the
Yum.
freeze in the fridge, and then another half we will use it for protein ice cream. So we just
Mm-hmm.
again put it in the freezer. Then so this way we just have to take it out next day, put it in a blender, protein powder, and then we have protein ice cream. So yeah, um, always you can. What we usually do is like you have to prioritize your fridge a little bit. So top shelves would be like food which is running out of
Right.
date soon, and then you can go lower and lower, which has more shelf life. So we try to get those in. But if we have extra, we just have to put it in a freezer. It's gonna be great. It will keep the nutrition, and you can do it later. You can always prep your food, um, put it in containers, put it away, keep it in the fridge. So cook them, put it in the fridge, it will last longer. And
Mm-hmm.
then if we are like we really have like a lot of extra food, we just chop everything up, put it in like what is it called, like repertoire, like something like that. So just
Uh-huh. Right.
chop up, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, just chop everything up, put it there. It's vegetable. It's gonna taste good. Throw some tofu in it, and it's a
You-
nice, great meal.
You've got a meal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's the wonderful thing about being plant-based is you can do that and not worry. I mean, whether it's a ratatouille, whether it's just a soup or a stew, you can use all the vegetables that are on that top shelf so that you can minimize your own individual waste.
Exactly. That's the best implants. They all they like in baseline they will be less um, um, footprint on environmental footprint, just in global scale, right? Just then meat
Mhm.
farming. So it's much easier on the planet. But once you have it, it's just because the variety of vitamins and minerals. Uh, and they cheaper on baseline, it can help even in poorer families,
Mhm.
right? So if they cannot afford more expensive products, these are really cheap, and you can, especially if you buy in box, you're not just getting a cheaper product, but you also increase your or improve your health. You increase your vitamins and mineral intake. So they're always good to have it in the fridge. You cannot go wrong with it, and it's super easy to make, faster, and you can always mix these things up.
Thanks, Gergu. And, you know, as we're wrapping up today, I would love to hear your thoughts. Many of us chose to become vegans or moving toward plant based for a whole variety of reasons. My personal journey started with health. And to your point about going down the rabbit hole, as I started going down the rabbit hole, I realized that it just opened up all of these things that I wasn't aware of related to our food system in general. And food, this is something that's I'm passionate about, is making sure that people have access to healthy, nutritious food no matter where they are in the world. But on a personal level, and you've lived in many different parts of the world, how has your own approach to food changed, especially as you become more aware to some of the more global aspects of food issues that we've been talking about today?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, I started be as well. It was literally hard to separate a vegan diet into, is it like more for environment, health reason, for the animals, is for all together. When you just realize like um, how much better or easier it makes everything if you are plant based, it's a little bit mind boggling because you're not just improving your health, but you helping the planet and the animals, obviously. So yeah, definitely when my approach changed to food is, um, I mean, I never wasted food before, but now I definitely making not just, okay, it's gonna be plant-based food, that's obvious, but I always make sure that I only buy food where I'm gonna eat,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to reduce plastic as much as possible. So um, wherever I go to travel, I try to buy um, food in bulk without plastic, kind of just free unpackaged food. And it's really, how would I say? Yeah, it's really important for me to make sure that the food I get, it will support my health, obviously, but it's going to be a very low impact on the environment as well. So again, just local food, um, and and seasonal food. I think it's really important that people
Mm-hmm.
understand that it's okay if you don't eat that, exotic food because it doesn't grow around your area or that season. I think we forgot a little bit like um, how food is seasonal. Fruits and vegetables are seasonal, and it's okay to not having an avocado if it's not in season, or banana or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Our body and nature is adjusted to those needs, and you don't have to overpay for that
Yeah,
produce. If you, I'm not saying never have it, but it's totally fine if you just um, eat the locally and seasonal foods.
agreed. And this is one of my favorite seasons for eating, uh, the squash and
Yeah.
all of the fall foods are some of my favorites. Gergu, as we wrap up today, is there one action you would encourage everyone watching or listening to take to make a more meaningful impact on food sustainability? Something they can do right now?
Yeah, always education is I would think that would can get the most out of it to learn. Obviously, we have a lot of resources on the topic, how to be sustainable, environmental for your diet and everything. So I think that would be number one. and maybe get some, cooking classes, workshop, learn how to cook and in bulk, and cook in bulk, and meal prep, things like that. So that would
Mhm.
be, I think that should be education, and learn how to meal prep. I would say that would be the best you can, or the easiest thing you can do today.
Those are low lift things that all of us could start to just choose one or two of them and that we can implement today.
Yep.
Thank you, Gergu. Thanks for joining me today, and more importantly, for sharing and educating the community around things that they can apply to help celebrate World Food Day.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. Definitely. It was
You're
great.
welcome. And I also want to thank all of you for joining us on this special World Food Day live stream. I hope you've gained some insights on how we can all contribute to creating a more sustainable, equitable, and healthy food system. Please remember, everyone plays a role in shaping the future of food, whether it's supporting local farmers, making mindful food choices, raising awareness online. Small actions can lead to big changes, and we have a lot of work to do. I'd love for you to share how you're celebrating World Food Day, and let's continue the conversation beyond today, because together we can create a better life and a better future for everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Until next time, be well, stay positive, and eat healthy foods. Take care.